Hello and welcome to the comic school. Yeah, lately I'm doing a lot of things related to movies and TV shows, and you might ask yourself, but this is the comic school, the comic school, the comic school. So what does it have to do? Well, as a comic creator, as a reader, writer, comic artist, it is pretty essential that, or I think it's pretty natural that as a creator, you consume stories, you consume movies, music, TV shows, games, real life, and everything is stories, and you try to filter those stories and what they give you, and you take in these stories and you make something out of it. If you see a movie that inspires you to be a total badass, you take that part and you probably integrate that into your life, or you listen to a song that you like and it gives you a certain feeling, or maybe you have different songs you might listen if you're sad, if you're happy, or if you want to get in a certain mood, and games, books. And I will say that probably media or mediums that are married with time means that you have a progression, let's say a book, a game, a movie, a TV show, a comic. It is scene after scene or experience after experience that will unravel the story. And today we'll talk about the climax, the climactic act, the end, because I'm reading lately Robert McKee's story again, and he says that if your climax fails, it's like the payoff, and if the payoff doesn't work, almost your entire story fails. I'm not saying movie, but your entire story. But I will talk about movies, TV shows. I could also talk about comics, like Greg Capullo's Court of Owls. Like everybody said, oh, that's so amazing, and the art was good, but the writing didn't do it for me. And we can talk about personal taste, but we can also talk about like really the mastery and the chops of storytelling. So your climax should not suck, and your climax is the high point, and it also encapsulates or it encloses what the story is about, if good prevails against evil, and how it does this. Because I'm making this video because I was seeing Dune Part 2 at cinema or in cinema 2 weeks ago, and I finished watching the Fallout TV show, I think, on Friday, and both endings and both climaxes sucked. It was utter trash. And it's pretty tragic because what came before that, let's say the episodes before the final episode, or the 2 hours before the final hour, or before the final 30 minutes, they were kind of good, sometimes even great. And Robert McKee also says that if you have a great story and it drags on for, let's say, the first hour, but then it ends on a really cool note and people come out of the cinema, or let's say, again, doesn't matter which media you're consuming, it could be a book, but the ending leaves you like, oh my God, this was so great. You kind of hold it in high regards. But if you're reading or watching or playing for a long time, and then you come at the end, and then like it's not spectacular and there's no point, you say, okay, man, this was just a bunch of wasted time. And so the climax needs to be good, and we will talk how to make it good and what not to do. So let me see. First point, and probably like this is, you start with your story. What story do you want to tell? And what should... I think it's start with the end in mind. And you should create the ending and what happens at the end. And I think Robert McKee says at the end there must be a change. There must be a change in the protagonist, and it must come from within and not from the outside, so that we see real change unfold on the screen in a comic page, where you see, oh my God, like this person or this protagonist has now changed from good to evil, from evil to good, from incapable to capable, from incapable to able, from able to incapable. Like something has to change. And probably it has also to change in a spectacular fashion, because Robert McKee also outlines that in movies or in scripts, other than in life, things should not always go wrong, but there has to be a rising tension. There has to be something that leads us upwards to a pressure and then a release. And I think that's true. It can be done in many different ways. I think we can have or take a look at different comics, at different movies, at different TV shows. But I think the great things are always when there is like a slow start or even a fast start, and then we get to know the characters, things happen, and then at the end, everything culminates maybe in a big battle or in a big brawl, or it could be also, you know what I mean, a mental battle, but it has to be somehow, I would say, spectacular. It has to be good, and it has to fit the beginning. Like the question we ask at the beginning, like, can this person be this or that? Can this person, or what is the reveal? And at the end, it needs to pay off big time. And this is where, let's say, Dune Part 2 let me down, because I don't know, what was the question in Dune, the beginning, Part 1? Like, sure, he doesn't want to be the Messiah and all of that, but their intentions were not really clear. I didn't feel his burning desire towards something. And then, okay, let's say he wants to be the Muad'Dib, and then at the end, there's this big climactic battle, but there was none. There was just stupid and flawed story writing. And you can say I'm wrong, but the movie ends in the last 10 to 20 minutes we're just told or shown what happens. There is no struggle, there's no battle. The Fremen walk in, the Sardaukar don't get an end fight, and it's pretty meh, and so it leaves you empty. We will also come to something that's called the audience and movie audience bond, or comic, or let's call it the bond between story and the audience. That's very, very important. We'll come to that in a second. And so, same, I was watching the Fallout TV show, and it was, at the beginning it was mixed, but I loved some parts, and some parts I really hated, but I kept on watching because I was kind of intrigued by it. And I don't want to spoil it, but at the end of it, in the final episode, you get a big reveal that comes from out of nowhere. There is no build-up. They waste the previous episodes on other stuff, which is tons of fun. And then they come back to this, and the tone changes, which will be part 3 or 4 of this video. The tone changes completely. What was 2 episodes previously like fun and this, now at the end of the movie it changes to dramatic, epic war movie, and it's like you're watching a different movie, and that's strange. And the climactic reveal is convoluted. It's an information dump. It is not show, not tell. There's no final cool battle. There's just, okay, this happens, and we show this and this and this, and we hope that you feel this, and then the show ends and it leaves you with a sour taste in your mouth because you have been cheated. You have been cheated. Your story pay off. Because at the beginning of the movie, it was, or this TV show or comic or book or whatever, it was the question, maybe, what was the question? Can Lucy go out in the world and find her father? And once she finds him, the story turns into a whole different beast. And so it's a different payoff, and it's not a payoff at all because it's just an info dump, and they just want to shock you as the audience. But it doesn't work because there's no build-up. You're not working the story. It's like I go to a pizzeria and I order a pizza, and after I wait 30 minutes, I get linguine. I didn't order linguine, so where's my pizza? And that's the point. So your climax is very important. It is almost like the point of your story. So you need to know, what do I want to tell the people? What should they get out? What should they learn from it? What's the final battle about? Is it about a certain person or a certain soul? Will he be good? Will he be bad? What is it about? And that needs to hit home at the end, and probably needs to hit home in a spectacular fashion. And also Robert McKee says that the question that gets answered in a spectacular way at the end, the whole story is like, okay, the protagonist is gonna make it. No, it's not. He's not gonna make it. He's gonna make it. It's not gonna make it. It's gonna make it. Let's say the protagonist has the burning desire for a woman. I can relate to that. Let's say, and he wants her, and then he says hi, and she says hi. That's a positive point. And then the next point, he sees that she has a boyfriend or something like that. And then the next point is that something good happens, and then something bad happens, and then they spend time together, or she breaks up with her boyfriend, and that's just a story on the top of my head. And then they grow close, but then she finds out something dark or stupid about him, and things go from up here to down there, and then he does something good, and then something bad, and then at the climax there must be a the final answer, and maybe that's related to the beginning, and it's not just that his burning desire leads him there. It's also a question. It's a question about his character. Maybe, is he able to overcome his perceived flaws to get what he wants in life, even if he gets that girl or not? At the end of the movie, maybe we sense that he has grown as a character, and that whatever happens, he'll be fine. But he'll be fine because he went through the journey of change. Pressure was applied to him, and sometimes he caved in, and sometimes he got himself out of the situation. And that is also where the story audience bond comes in, and it's a sacred bond that you don't have to like the character, but you have to empathize with the character. And again, the book says that it's not only like you're watching a protagonist on a screen or in a comic, and maybe you need to relate and say, okay, I can relate. Let's say in the story of the boy wants girl or girl wants boy, let's reverse the role. Let's say the girl wants the boy, but she cannot have it, and I'm a man, so can I relate with her? But maybe you show her and she's, I don't know, how could you relate to her? You see it, and she watches him, and then she has her diary, and she writes something in there, or she scribbles something in there, and she dreams of him, and maybe she gets some likable traits. Maybe she's an honest person, or maybe she wants to really change something in her life, and his girlfriend is a total bitch. And well, already I guess there are certain factors where you can relate with that. And the bond between the story or the viewer, the audience, it needs to be created. It needs to be like I can relate to that character, and I want for that character to have their desire, because you're putting yourself in their shoes. And if the story can convince you that the character can have what he wants, so you as an audience or viewer or reader kinda live through that and are inspired by that. And doesn't matter if it's like Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. He's an upstanding guy. He wants to care for his family and his son. You can relate to that. Like if you maybe you don't have a son, but you can relate. Like if you had a son, you would love to protect him in that world. And so it is easy for us to root for him and through all the obstacles. And that is a really important point to make a bond. Again, the character doesn't have to be likable, but you need to know what the character wants, what's his burning desire. I mean, probably you could even take an evil character and make us understand what is his burning wish and why. And then we need to kind of relate or put ourselves in the same shoes and say, okay, I can relate to that. I want the same. And the final part, I think, is when the tone is all over the place, probably like this video. But in Dune, the tone was very consistent. And for me, it was consistently cringy, and I couldn't get into the story. If you enjoyed it, I don't want to take that away from you, but for me, it didn't work. Like I was liking some parts, but in the back of my head, I kind of thought all the time, like, I've seen that done better in another movie, or I would have done that better, or that could have been better. That was going through my mind. It was different in the Fallout show. Like I was kind of intrigued. I was going along for the ride. The Lucy story arc was cool, and the Cooper story arc was cool, and the Maximus story arc was like pretty bland and pretty bad, and I was pissed there. But I could understand like that Lucy wants to find her father, that she wants to solve a mystery, that she goes from A to B, and she wants to survive, and she wants to get this to go there, and I was rooting for her. I don't know why it worked, but I think I could put myself in the shoes of that girl or that protagonist, that she wants to do good, she wants to get her father back, she wants to do justice, and you see, there's already the relatability. And I liked also some of her traits, plus she was attractive. But then Coop, not very attractive, he's a ghoul, but he had definitely some traits that made him attractive. And Maximus lacked the motivation, his burning desire, and some traits. He was just dull, and that's a huge crime, because would you spend time with a thing or with people who are just boring? I think not. Doesn't mean that life is all the time action and cool stuff, but yeah. And so the tone kind of went from funny to playful to action, and I liked it. But then in the final episode, they dialed it up, like to television drama out of nowhere, to evil monster plot, to the good guy is the bad guy and the bad guy is the good guy, although it doesn't hold up, because Miss Hero at the end of the movie slaughtered people in the first episode, but so many episodes passed that you probably forget about it. And so it is a pretty shitty ending, probably like mine right now. But if you watched till now, make sure that your climax is awesome, that the climax is connected to the beginning, that climax and beginning share a question about a protagonist or your protagonist, about the story, and that it answers it at the end in a probably spectacular or cool fashion, so that your audience can go out of the movie and say, okay, that was amazing, or read the comic and think, okay, this was really memorable. And how you do that, we will talk about that in the next video. I see you.